Hi, this is Garrett Keaton. We're here to talk about sleep and stress today. Through the X-factors, sometimes we forget about when we're talking about fitness and wellness. A lot of times we're so focused on cardio, strength, nutrition, and we typically forget this important piece. And I've seen clients that are having, good consistency with those things. They're eating right, they're exercising, but their body composition is not changing in the right direction, or sometimes even going in the opposite direction. So we want to make sure that we're at least addressing these. Obviously, if these are chronic problems where they're at a level, they need to be addressed by medical professionals. But our point here today is to educate you a little bit, hopefully create an awareness and a plan to deal with these, because these are two things in life. I know myself, I struggle with them as well. I've always been good with my nutrition and my exercise, but sometimes getting enough sleep and controlling the stress is not always, it's easier said than done. So, like I always say, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. So after this webinar, my goal for everybody on this webinar is to create a plan and have some resources to do a better job of making sure we're addressing these things. We're never going to be perfect at anything, but at least we're trying to address these as well as the exercise and nutrition part. So going forward on the sleep piece, it is a big problem in our country. Sleep is DNA coded. Most American adults need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 40% of it says here are not getting enough sleep. The average American is sleep deficient. And that leads to, there's been strong links to obesity, which is largely related to endocrine function, and also cardiovascular disease, a lot of links to that as well. And so it's not just feeling tired, not having energy for things, but it's going to affect your health in the long term, so you want to get on top of this. I think one of the interesting things I saw was, if you go without food for 2 weeks, you will die. But if you go without sleep for 10 days, you will die. So sleep actually ranks higher than food in terms of what your body needs. And we all eat every day, but we don't always, I know people that don't sleep every day or barely sleep at all. So this is a real important thing for just overall health. And mental function, mood, cognition, memory, basically, how do you function as a human being? We all know you get crabby and you can be tough to be around. Emotions can get out of control. When we're tired, they said, with fatigue, they're talking about one of the biggest things is that can create accidents too in dangerous situations. The Exxon Valdez, the oil tanker that ran aground and created the big oil spill up in Alaska, was related to sleep deprivation. So was the Space Shuttle Challenger. And right now it's 1 in 5 people actually in auto accidents are related. It's a sleep deprivation related things. And kind of an interesting study that was done is that they took people that were sleep deprived versus people that were drinking alcohol, and they found out that people that were sleep deprived actually had 0.05%, had the same function as somebody who had 0.05% of a blood alcohol level. So the legal driving limit is 0.08%. So 0.05% is pretty close to being legally drunk. So you can see how that can impair you. And when we talk about not drinking and driving, how about sleeping and driving, not at the same time? You get my drift on that one. Anyway, so let's talk about, sleep is definitely an issue in our country. It doesn't surprise anybody that it is an issue. And so what are we going to do to deal with it? So let's talk about what the importance is of good night's sleep. Better endocrine function. So we talked about the link between sleep and obesity. The biggest issue there is lack of sleep throws things out of function. Having a good night's sleep actually keeps testosterone levels, which is important for recovery and for sex drive up. And especially as guys, low testosterone has been related to a lot of problems with guys, mood disorders, depression symptoms, but also human growth hormone. When those levels get low, that's a fat-burning hormone in our body that helps us maintain lean muscle mass and burn body fat. And we access that. Our body stimulates that hormone later in later cycles of sleep. But if we don't sleep long enough throughout the night, we're not going to get into that cycle where we increase our HGH levels. And so we're never going to really replenish or raise those levels of human growth hormone, HGH, aka HGH, to the point where we want them so we can get the results you want. So not getting enough sleep depletes some of those important hormones, and it also will deplete another hormone called leptin, which is a I'm full hormone, but it also raises a level of the hormone I'm hungry hormone called ghrelin. So just kind of put this in perspective. If I'm increasing the amount of hormone that tells me I'm hungry, decreasing the hormone that tells me I'm satisfied and full, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to tend to eat more calories. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It also will increase levels of the hormone cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which at high levels in your body, it basically shuts down fat burning because it's basically dumping sugar into your bloodstream to deal with a fight or flight response, and it also can eat up muscle tissue. So we don't want high levels of cortisol either. Most people have heard of cortisol. Obviously, clearer thinking, you can be more focused. Think about the high technical things that you have to do. If you're doing lifting, if you're doing things like squats, deadlifts, or the Olympic lifts like cleans, you need to be focused. A lot of times people get injured because they're not focused on their technique or their form in the weight room, and then even on their job, thinking about your job. What if you have to drive for your job? Or what if you're a medical professional and you have to work with people, if you're a nurse or doctor? One mistake can make a big difference. So you got to be focused, and when you're not, your brain's not able to recharge like putting the battery on a charger at night when you're sleeping. So obviously that's important too. Increased energy. We have a heavy reliance on coffee and energy drinks in this country. I love Spark from Advocare, don't get me wrong, but if somebody's taking 4 or 5 Sparks a day to try to keep their energy up, there's a problem. And too much caffeine to try to keep our energy up because of lack of sleep can really wreak havoc on our adrenal glands, and adrenal burnout will create a huge sense of fatigue. So making sure that we're getting enough sleep so we have energy, we don't have to worry about energy from other sources, that are artificial sources as well. Less pain. There's been a lot of studies that will actually improve, that tell you your body actually will have less pain when you sleep more, and also recovery from stress. And exercise is a form of stress. So we want to make sure that we're actually, recovering from that stress. And that's where our body, during sleep when we do a lot of our growth and repair, when we're doing strength training, we're actually tearing the body down and ripping down the muscle tissue and creating damage in the body. And the body adapts during our downtime, especially during our sleep, to repair it and build it up bigger and stronger than before. So if we're not getting that repair time, that rebuilding time, if our breakdown exceeds our buildup, we're going to get into overtraining. We're going to probably end up, not getting the results we want, not getting the strength gains and the muscle gains that we want in the gym. And I know women, you're going to say, well, I don't want to gain muscle, but we always say gaining muscle is good for the metabolism. And if we're not gaining lean mass, we're not really positively affecting our metabolism. And that doesn't mean becoming a big bodybuilder or something like that, but it's not how hard you train. Bottom line, it's not how hard you train, it's how well you recover. A better sex life, like I mentioned, 26% of the people in a study referenced the fact that they actually were too tired, and that's why their sex life suffered. Also, immunity, that's an important one as well, too, is they actually tracked 150 people in one study for 2 weeks and exposed them to a cold virus. The people who got 7 or less hours of sleep were 3 times more likely to get sick. So if you're getting sick all the time, look at your sleep levels as one of the issues there. I'm going to kind of track back to endocrine function too. One more thing I forgot to mention is we talk about insulin and blood sugar as being big parts of your ability to control body fat. So if we have high insulin levels and we have unstable blood sugar, we're definitely going to be in a fat storing mode 24/7. So they actually did another study where they simulated the effects of shift work with 10 young healthy adults. You wouldn't think of 10 young healthy adults as having an issue with blood sugar, because most of the time they're more active, they're just younger, and we haven't done enough damage to our bodies to create that insulin resistance that we always hear about. And after 4 days of shift work, these guys, 3 of these 10 people were actually at pre-diabetic blood sugar levels. And that's going from a normal to a pre-diabetic in just a matter of 3 days of shift work. And think about all the people that work shift work, like, nurses, doctors, I know air traffic controllers that I've worked with. It's really hard to get a good rhythm in your body if you're always working these goofy shifts, and you're not getting the sleep that you need. So very, very important for endocrine function, overall health. So the benefits are there. So what do we do about it with sleep? So tips for good night's sleep. As much as I love my advocare Spark, and I know a lot of people love coffee, we got to be careful of how much we use it and when we use it. And I kind of use 3 p.m. as a cutoff time. I'm very tolerant of caffeine, but I know that if I use it too late in the day, it will actually keep me too alert. And we don't want to be jamming ourselves full of stimulants later in the day, because it'll be hard for us to come down at night. So making sure we're monitoring our caffeine use, turning off electronics. This is a big one for a lot of people. I just had a client come in to me the other day. She said he wasn't sleeping. And one of the benefits a lot of times between sleep and, or exercise and eating better, you sleep better. So we want to make sure that we are actually, creating an environment, that we are sleeping, but that's not always the case. Well, getting back to this client actually told me that he wasn't sleeping good, even though he'd been exercising and eating right. And I asked him what his bedtime routine was. Well, sure enough, he was watching a lot of TV before he went to bed. And I told him, I said, I want you to try for a week. Instead of just watching TV, I want you to spend some time reading. And he just kind of balked at me. I said, just give it a week and we'll see what it try. And guaranteed you will have a better night. Electronics like Facebook, iPhones, computers, they stimulate us, and not in a good way sometimes. And they can create a lot of stimulation before bed that we don't need, and really it's hard to go to sleep. Think about if you've watched a real intense show or something like that,